Good morning, Amchi Mumbai. It's awesome to be here in Mumbai, and welcome to CloudFest 2018. It's pretty stunning to see that this conference is one of those events which sets the tone for this industry for the rest of the year. Now, whether you are a small business, or whether you are a reseller, a web developer, or just a small IT services provider, and whether you have been in business for 5 years, or you're just starting off now. Whether you have 50 employees in your company, or you happen to be that one-person stop shop, where one day you become a CEO, in the evening you're the accountant, at night you're the homemaker. And finally, whether you have 50 locations, or you are the locations, you basically work out of your car, out of your garage, with your cell phone on the streets of Mumbai. There's one thing very clear. Many of you have taken the decision to work for yourself. And despite and in spite of all the challenges, you are the most passionate, the most hardworking, and the most resilient part of this community. So please take a moment and acknowledge everyone sitting next to you and give a big round of applause here. Now, in spite of all the challenges which small businesses faced, and Steve had asked an interesting question in terms of media coverage, right? The big businesses tend to get all the coverage and small businesses don't. But yet, you beat all the odds. And here are some of the faces of some of you, and many of you we plan to bring together. But this is a living example of how innovative this community is and able to solve many problems. I was going through some numbers around, globally, the community which is here, what impact does it have around the world? If you think about the resellers, the web developers, the small IT services company, roughly we have about 100 million small businesses, IT resellers, web pros around the world. And the impact they make today, 100 million of you enabling 4 billion internet users. That's half the world. And if you look at the small businesses, independent ventures around the world, that's about 500 million of them. And if the small business community was a country, that would be the third largest country in the world after China and India. So just think about the impact you're making, and you're doing things a lot greater than yourself, which you can see. And at an India level, we talked about 60 million plus small businesses, the second largest source of employment, and also contributing over 37% to GDP. Now, one metric which doesn't get measured today is your contribution to Digital India. If there was a metric today which was measuring how you're enabling small businesses to come online, making them digitally relevant and globally competitive, I bet that number will be way, way higher than the 37%. So again, you guys are doing a phenomenal impact on transforming lives of small businesses. We also know, and 70% of small businesses need help, which really tells us the opportunity ahead lies, with together where we can go from here. If you do a survey around your customers, majority of them come to you for those kind of help around products, services, and so on. But we also know that it's not easy being a service provider. There are financial constraints, but in addition to financial constraints, there are three big emerging themes which we tend to hear from you when we talk to you and also visit you. The first one is around how do you continuously upskill and reskill yourself? If you just dial back 5 years back in India, 1 in 4 graduates was employable. Today, 1 in 12 graduate is employable, and some of the studies are actually talking about 1 in 15 graduates being employable. So what that means is recruiting talent, especially for you guys who are small businesses versus the big businesses, is very hard. And once you recruit talent, how do you continuously upskill them, reskill them? Now, technology and platforms keep changing every 6 months, so continuously giving them the right certification, the right training is a big challenge. Second, it's a cluttered market. So how do you differentiate versus your next best competitor? And third is around, in most cases, customers actually don't know what they want. And us Indians are notorious for that, right? If you just draw a graph of what we say versus what we want versus what we do, you will find these lines going all over, right? So it's more being an astrologer when you're dealing with customers to say, okay, let me understand what you're doing and kind of really help you unpack what you want. So what we're going to do in the second part of my presentation is I'm going to talk about one theme which has been successful for me as a person. I will bring one of your colleagues up on the stage to talk about his story. And then we'll also have a fireside chat with one person who just about started the business about 3 years ago, and one person who's been extremely successful over the last 15 years, and kind of talk about these challenges and how they are overcoming the challenges. So it becomes a good teachable and share out with you all. So let me start off with the theme, which is falling in love with your customer's problem. You guys would have a device, on your table, and I'm going to ask you in a minute to use it. How many of you, in business context, know the difference between missionary and mercenary? Now, I did not know this answer a few days ago. One of the things, we do as a company is we actually do a practice called Follow Me Homes, which essentially means we go to different customers' workplaces, observe the tasks they're performing, and really try to understand the problem rather than coming up with the solution, because we know the problem is right. Whether our solution is right or not, we will learn over time. So if you may, just pick up that device and just answer if you know the difference between missionary and mercenary as it relates to business.
Nikhil, sorry, we need to get the system a confirmation when they can do this. Apologies to.
Sorry?
Okay,
no,
there'll be a time when we'll give them 30 seconds of time to get in.
Okay.
So we get the confirmation from the console here.
Okay. So while they're getting it ready,
it's ready.
Just a quick show of hands. Have any of you heard this analogy in business before, missionary versus mercenary? So you're all in the same boat as I was. I didn't know about this until a few days ago when I was visiting the customer. So the technology is ready. So if you could please take the device which is on your tables. So if you know the difference, the answer is A. If you don't know the difference, the answer is no. And in about 30 seconds, we'll be seeing a graph of no versus yes, and then I will explain you the difference and also connect to what it means.
They need to hit OK after they hit A and B, and they hit OK.
All right, so either press A or B, and please press OK. So, done? Just so that we can start putting up the graphs. All right, so let's see the results of the survey. So you are in the same bucket as I was, right? So missionaries are people, by definition, in business, who fall in love with the customer's problem first, and then think about money and how to monetize that. Mercenaries are people who start about how do I make more money and go searching for a problem to be solved. And there is a research in business which is done which says that you can become a mercenary if you're a missionary, meaning you start with the problem, you can convert to be a mercenary to make money. But if you're a mercenary, your chances of success to become a missionary are very low because you're always focused on just monetizing without understanding the problem. And this was a very important learning for me from one of the customers I had visited, where, how do you start with the problem first? And I'm going to share a personal story, which is about 20 years back, unrelated to technology, but very related to falling in love with the customer's problem. And then I'm going to invite one of my colleagues, one of your colleagues, to come up on the stage and do the same story. So about 23 years ago, I was in the US. I was studying. I didn't have a job, so I used to work at a petrol station pumping gas. So one day, this gentleman came in his car. It was a very high, kind of a bad weather day, a lot of snow coming. I filled his car with petrol, but he just drove off and the car broke down. And he tried to call a cab, taxi, nothing was available. The roads were jam-packed. And he walked out of his car and came to me and said, would you mind dropping me to my house? And I asked, how far his house was. It was 2 hours away. Now, in the US, generally, you don't tend to drop people if you don't know them. Right? I mean, in India, it's pretty common. You have a little bit more cultural affiliation with people there. You don't. But I said, OK, 2 hours, I have nothing to lose. So I went with him. While we were driving, he was talking to me as, what am I studying? What do I want to do? And when we reached his home, he left his business card. Those days, the internet email wasn't that big. So he left me with his business card, and I realized it was his daughter's first birthday, and that was his really intention to get home, on time. So dial forward 4 years. What I did in those 3-4 years was continuously kept in touch with him, and he kept in touch with me because he remembered the fact that I dropped him home, as simple as that. I was graduating, the first Gulf War was happening, no jobs in the market, and I was a struggling person there in New York, and I decided to happen to call him to say, I'm looking for some break. I want to be I studied accounting, so I was trying to be an independent bookkeeper, selling services. So I said, I'm trying to get my first contract. And he said, come into my office. And he happened to be the CFO of the largest entertainment and media company of the US. And I went to the office, and he gave me the first break. And I asked him later, why, right? And what he explained to me was that on that day, when his car broke down, he said his problem wasn't getting petrol. His problem was getting to his daughter's house to be there for the first birthday. And I unintentionally did that. I wasn't falling in love with this problem, right? I wasn't that genius to say, yeah, I have to do that. I just happened to be asked, and I did it. But now looking back, what I realized was that that is the biggest learning of, if you're falling in love with somebody's problem, good things happen. If you're keeping in touch with people, good things happen. And we applied the same principle to one of our web professional story, I'll tell you. How many of you are runners here in the audience? Yeah, so Mumbai is the great place. The Mumbai Marathon happens every year. And this year, what we decided was that we said, this community of health and wellness, right? They're all building websites. They're all trying to tell their story. So how can we create a fun exercise where we give them a platform through our website product to tell their story? Create a website about your running experience. So we took a stall at the Tata Mumbai Marathon, and we needed to find somebody who could help us there, talk to these thousands and thousands of people, right? Those of you who know Mumbai Marathon, I don't know, 30,000 people run. So we were expecting a lot of people to come, and we contacted Sajal, who's one of the web designers out of Delhi, to say, hey, we're doing this small experiment. Would you like to volunteer time and come? There is no guarantee of revenue. There is no guarantee of anything, except we are trying to learn about the problem of these customers, why they're coming online, and what will enable them to come online. And Sajal said, yes, I will come. He left his work for 3 days, was parked at our booth, spoke to about more than 3,000 customers, followed up with about 1,500 customers, personally called 750 customers, and he left, right? He left with no big check of revenue, and he was back in Delhi. And dial forward 3 months, today, Sajal has created one of the largest vertical for himself of serving health and fitness professionals, because all these people who came there were so touched by his passion for understanding the problem as to, why do you want to build a website? What are you going to do with this website? What kind of story do you want to put? Do you want to build a business, or is it a passion website? And the word just spread around. And that was a great example of him falling in love with the customer's problem and business coming thereafter. So with that, let me invite Sajal on the stage. I know he's sitting somewhere up front. Sajal, if you may, please come on the stage. Please. And I'll also invite Puneet Thakkar to join me. Stephen had mentioned about Puneet in his presentation. a wonderful friend now. In fact, he was one of the first partners when I joined GoDaddy, and I went to his office, and I still remember the great treatment I got. Please have a seat. So thank you, Puneet, and thank you, Sajal. So what I'm going to attempt to do now in this conversation is we listed the three problems about about what you guys face, about skills development, about how to differentiate yourself, how to kind of unpack that astrological customer about what they say versus what they want versus what they do. So let me start off with Puneet in sharing his story. About how he fell in love with his customer's problem, 1997, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, hello. So it all, started with a purpose. Yeah. So today I have, when you enter my office, there's a purpose written of the Shivami. So the purpose of Shivami is to make positive change into the lives of the people we connect, by offering them solutions and services which bring profit and happiness for us, right? So way back, I remember spam was a major problem. Happened to visit one of my old customers, so very senior gentleman. He was dictating something to his secretary, and I was a web designer back then. I was sitting with him, and one email came on his Outlook, and that was a explicit email which he could not sustain or see because his young secretary was standing next to him. And he said that, if you get me a solution to this, I'll pay you anything. And I was like, wow. So I tried with one email solution, didn't work. Second, didn't work. Third, he said, either you do it or get out. I was like, okay, I need to figure out something. And I figured out that, the best spam engine was provided by X provider. I said, I want to try this out. I'm not sure whether it will work. And it worked. I got paid handsomely. So I solved his problem. I got paid handsomely. And that was the purpose which so I made a positive impact in his life. At the same time, I got profit for myself. And then I realized that there are so many people like him. Reach out to them, next. Deep down, I decided that let me be number one in that in India, and today I am.
Wow. Awesome. And just to add some color, so when I visited Puneet for the first time, he made me walk through these 2-3 floors and specifically took so much time to explain me his mission statement. Now everybody has a mission statement nowadays, but what you do with it is important. How do you put it, embed into your employees important. And I was just amazed at the number of touch points you walk through the office. You can't miss the mission statement, and how it reminds employees that they come every day to do something larger than themselves. So Puneet, a great story. Sajal, we talked about Mumbai Marathon and the 3,000 people bombarded on you. Just share us some more experiences on that as to what made you, first of all, we called you, we said, okay, volunteer time. What made you decide to do that, and just your journey from there?
So I got this opportunity from GoDaddy to attend a marathon. To attend a marathon event where IT company is participating. So first I thought an IT company in a marathon. So I decided to know how I can interact with the customer there. Who is my customer there? And then Nikhil explained me the opportunity. This is the health vertical. So I went 4 months ago in January. Then I met almost 3,000 people in 3 days. I left my office for 4 days. There is no guarantee that I'll get the revenue or not. So I came back to Delhi, and I started sending emails and WhatsApp messages to those customers. We got leads in the marathon event. So out of those emails, almost 43% we got open rate in email, and almost 23% we got WhatsApp responses. So I guess it was not 100%, but I tried. So I made a point there, and I started reaching out to health nutrition and doctors, clinics for this health vertical. So for me, I believe so. This is the new vertical, the health vertical. So now I'm working with few clinics and doctors in the health verticals. So for me, this is always, I'm always passionate about meeting new customers, learning about their requirement, what they want, how I can execute their problem, and how I can solve their problem actually.
Yeah, thanks, Sajal. And I get a lot of calls on the folks from that marathon to say, hey, was he a GoDaddy employee? That's what they thought because of his time commitment. So, great testimony. Puneet, one of the things we talked about is the challenge around skills development, right? And you probably have gone through that journey to where you are now. And it's such a easy problem to talk about, such a difficult one to crack, especially, when you're a small business. Just, help us share some learnings as to what and how, you do for your employees and even for yourself.
So when I entered the IT industry in '97, I was a multimedia designer. Today, my company is a cloud service provider. And every 5 years, I kind of have changed my business model around the latest technology. And the way I look at it is, if I am a leader, right, of my own team, right, I need to be ahead of them because leaders have followers. And I always make sure that every evening, whether I'm sitting in front of the television or doing anything else, I figure out something new to read, some new technology, and then I go and share that same with my team, tell them, play with it. Yeah? If you make a mistake, I will be supporting you. But if you don't make mistake, if you don't come out with something, probably, we will not survive in the business. Luckily, my old team members understand this. So it's always a top-down approach which works, right? So I initiate it, someone pushes it, and someone else follows it. It works for us. And again, SMB, we have a typical challenge of not able to retain the employees, right? So we teach them, they become smart, they either start their own business or they kind of, go somewhere else. I don't even worry about them. Because as long as I'm a leader, if someone thinks that I'm a leader, he will follow me, whether he's part of my team member or not my team member. I have my ex-employee being supported by me. They come back to me saying, you need to work on this, and I get a lot of opportunities from them. So I always believe that, destiny will make sure that you get what you invest.
Yeah. Sajal, you're in the early stage, Puneet's gone through that curve a lot. Like, you probably have a different set of challenges on the skilling side. Please share.
So I started my journey as a web developer in 2012, and in 2014 I started my own business because at that time I was working with agencies and I got to know that customers are not happy, with the services. So I think that I can solve their problems, and I should start my own agency to solving the customer problem. So earlier, we have most of web developers here. That earlier we were using Flash animation to build the website, and even I did Flash animation to build the website. Now you are seeing that the Flash animation is asking for permission to start on any website because it's take time to load on the website. So it's gone. So as you know, the industry is changing day by day. It's 21st century, but as you know, that people are, in our community, they are still learning the old techniques. But so we got interns, then juniors, then senior, then intermediate. So we, got to know that they want to learn, because if you have interns, they always have the passion to learn from their juniors and from the seniors because they want to achieve a position that is senior. So we have, we have weekly sessions, monthly session to train them, because if you have the latest skill set, then you are in business. If you don't have, then your business go away.
Good. Thanks. So Puneet, the toughest question, right? How do we unpack customers' mind, right? Between the say versus the warrant versus the do ratio is the most complex one, including us, right? When we buy something also, we probably exhibit the same behavior. How do you go about it?
I have an interesting answer to this, you know. So when I started a career, you know, I was a multimedia designer, so I was kind of making movies for the customer, right? And whenever first time someone makes a website, they think that they are making movie and they are directors. So exactly, you know, they say something, they want something else, right? And when you present them something, there is something else they are expecting. What I did is, you know, more important is I always understood their business, right? So it was a pretty, you know, learning experience for me. I always made sure that when I go to a customer, I tell them, I'm of this budget. Can you afford me? If yes, I want to come and meet you. So I cut down the pricing problem. B, I send them a questionnaire in advance saying that this is the thing you have to fill up. Then only I will come for meeting. Now, it's very difficult in India, but it still works, right? So they used to fill up the questionnaire. That means I have everything in writing from them that what they want. Now, third is I would go and meet them, understand their business model, right? When I'm in their shoes, probably I'm able to suggest them more because I have experience with other customers as well. And then I would say that if you trust me, let me play this way, right? It worked for me back then, right? But over the journey, what I realized that for some of the customers, I became the trusted advisor, right? So even today, if they need to buy a latest mobile, they will call me and check, is this a right product for you or a product for me? And so I keep myself also updated with the latest technology in mobiles and gadgets because they call me and check with me. So I'm the trusted advisor. So I make sure that since I have to give them advice, I have to be very transparent as far as technology is concerned. I have to be very transparent as far as what they're buying. I have to keep their expectations in check. So if someone says that, you know, for my business, privacy is more important than functionality, I would say, okay, go for this product. Someone says that I'm in the, you know, trading business. It doesn't matter what privacy is, but, you know, because, you know, everyone can sell my product. So I would say, okay, go with the functional product or solution. So that's what I do. And being trusted advisor, being trusted by someone brings me a lot of revenue, trust me.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think you make a great point about the unarticulated needs of the customer by looking at the business model, right? Because a lot of times, all of us assume that the customer kind of understands the business fully. I think they understand the problem that they're trying to solve, but you know, the business evolves, so getting to understand their business from an outside-in perspective is great. Sajal, your experience?
So as Puneet explained that he's a trustworthy, a trusting factor he got. So we also got 80 to 90% of our business from the reference. So we already made sites from 100 of customers, and they give us the reference to make new website for their, let's say, friends, for their business partners and all. So it depends to to set an expectation to the customer. So after meeting first time or twice, you got to know about the exact scope of work. So if you are setting the right expectation that this is the scope of work for phase 1, so we are taking this forward for, let's say, next 6 weeks, then we can set the right expectation and we can deliver the work. So in between, let's say, in between the project delivery, you got to know that customer has new requirements. You can ask them that, wait for this phase and we'll cover this in the next phase. By doing this, you can get customer convinced about the next phase, and customer can be agreed with your scope of work that you already share. So we took the sign off before proceeding with the work.
Great. Great. I think great learnings from both of you. And again, you just kind of the early days. Puneet's really in the matured cycle, so very interesting. But the consistent theme is, one of the things is that if you just kind of unlock what they just said, there's a huge value of actually meeting customers face to face. In today's world where research is an overspoken word, where you read a lot of data, you read a lot of reports, but there is no substitute for actually meeting customers and talking to them in person. And one of the practices which is well known is like if you look at your calendar and say, are you spending 20 to 25% of your time minimum on a face-to-face interaction with the customer in their work environment, not on the phone, because when you're in their work environment, you have a better understanding of what's happening there, what are the constraints, where the workflow is being broken, and then you can put a very different perspective when you're solving for them. This also has been a great year for GoDaddy. Stephen had mentioned about us reaching 1 million customers. So thank you, all of you, for helping us achieve this milestone. And please give a big round of applause to yourself and all our wonderful customers. And I'm going to just end on a note to say that it's not about how good we are, but how great we all can be. And this, again, reinforcing the fact that this is the most passionate, the most hardworking, and the most resilient community we have. So let's look forward to the next year, and please come to GoDaddy booth and let's have more conversations. And I'd love to get feedback on these 3 themes when you get a chance to come to our booth about how can we help you on skills, how can we help you differentiate, and how can we help you unpack the customers. So thank you very much.